Average Woodsman here, back with another video. So today I kind of wanted to do a couple of fun bushcraft projects that you guys can do, and also show you how to find lighter knot, which is what we call it here in the South, or up, in other parts of the country they call it fat wood. How to find fat wood. I have an older video on how to find fat wood, but it's from years and years ago. So I kind of wanted to just kind of do an update on it and go over it, and also do some other stuff, some fun bushcraft projects that you guys can do on your own around camp, or just when you're out in the woods having a good time, trekking around, camping, fishing, those types of things. So let's get in. So this is legitimately the first tree that I came up to. I used my Silky Big Boy to cut this branch, and as you can see, it's just pure fat wood. You're going to want to look for where the actual branch meets the trunk of the tree. That's where the resin is going to accumulate in the heartwood of the actual tree. Now, most people are going to look for a downed tree or a stump, something like that, a dead tree. You can find them in live trees. You just need to find dead branches that meet the actual heartwood of the tree, so the actual trunk of the tree. And like this one, this is a live pine. This is just a dead branch. And the dead branch is nothing but fat wood where the resin accumulates. Another example, this one I haven't cut yet. This is a dead branch that meets the actual trunk of a live tree. So I'll go ahead and cut this with my saw. And as you can see, that's all fat wood in there. It's all fat wood in this actual dead branch. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a downed dead tree or an old stump. The resin will accumulate in these dead branches on live trees. All right, so after you locate your fat wood, you're just going to want to process it down like you would do with anything else. You can use an axe or a hatchet if you have that. I'm just going to use my belt knife to process this down. Just have a small log here. You can see this whole thing is not all resin. As you can see, there's only part of this is the top portion, about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way down, maybe half the way down. But there is a lot of fat wood in this, so we'll use what we have here. I also want to show you guys from my house. I actually have like a tender box that I keep like fat wood in, all different types of natural tender, different types of woods that I might want to carve with that I find while I'm out in the woods. This one I found from a downed pine tree several months ago, and I took my axe to it. The whole thing is just nothing but fat wood. Just so much resin. This will burn like a candle. Will just burn and burn and burn and burn and burn for a long, long time. And I can just process this down into small pieces and use it as I need to. And like I said, so it doesn't necessarily have to be from a down log like this one, but a lot of times the down trees or stumps, you'll find more resin. Like the other one that I showed you earlier came from a live tree, but it was where the dead branch met the actual trunk of the tree. So only maybe half of it was fat wood and the other half was just dry pine, because the resin accumulates in that area. So if you understand the resources in your specific area, like for me in my area, I know that I have pine, I know that I have eastern red cedar, I have cypress, I have palm, I have saw palmetto, I have oak, I have all these different resources that I can access, and some of them are specifically better than others for fire making, especially when you're talking about a tender bundle. So for instance, I have some dead black Spanish moss, I have some cedar bark, and I have some of the fibers from palm. Also a little bit of cattail fluff. This is just a super basic tender bundle. You don't have to use man-made tinder, something that you may have purchased or something that you may have made at home. Alright, so I found a nice chunk of pine resin here. Gonna go ahead and burn that down. Now, you don't want a really large fire, you're gonna want coals. So I'm gonna let this fire burn down into coals, because if you put this in there, it will catch fire if you have too large of a fire and too much heat. So you're gonna want this to die down some, and then I'll go ahead and place my cup in there with the pine resin and we'll get that melted down. So while I'm waiting for this fire to burn down to coals so I can put my cup on it with the pine resin, I'll show you guys another really quick technique that I like to use when I'm using fat wood. So instead of doing something like a feather stick like you would do normally, if you have a sharp 90-degree spine on your knife, and this is why having a sharp 90-degree spine on your knife is so important, because you can use it like a spoke shave and you can shave off super duper fine tender to the point where there's a lot of surface area and it's really, really fiberish. And you can just, right away, just with those few, I have all that tender, all that I can use. And this will ignite with just a ferro rod super easily. Just like that. That simple. Now that we have a nice bed of coals, we'll just go ahead and lay this on there. Let it get nice and hot and melt down. It'll take a few minutes to melt all of it down, but we'll get ourselves a nice pot full of resin, pine resin. All right, while we're waiting for this to continue to melt, I'm gonna go ahead and baton this into 4 pieces. All right, now that we got this baton down to 4 pieces, we'll go ahead and carve these out. So I went ahead and pieced this back together after carving it out, wrapped some bank line around this, 3, 4, 5 times, and you're going to want to do what's called a square knot. So a square knot, you'll go right over left, nice and tight, and then you'll do the reverse. So you'll do left over right. And that's literally that simple. And this will hold this together. And what I like to do is I like to take one of the little tag ends and use that as the wick. I don't know if you guys can see that wick, but it's burning really well. It's